Welcome to another episode of What's Working in E-commerce. I'm your host, Egan Heath from Caravan Digital. We're a paid search, paid social, and email automation agency for e-commerce brands. And today I'm so excited to have on Lesley Hensell. Lesley works at Riverbend Consulting, and she's a specialist in Amazon. Lesley, welcome.
Thank you so much for having me. Excited to be here.
Yeah. So Lesley, I know you're a specialist in getting people back on Amazon once their account has been banned. Before we jump into that, give us a little bit of an overview of how you got into this and why this is an important area to focus on as a consultant or as a brand.
I've been selling on Amazon since 2010. So that makes me a pretty, like a grandma on the platform. I'm not one in real life, but on Amazon, I'm definitely grandma aged. And my background before that was actually management consulting and marketing consulting. So as I started to meet people in the seller community, I started meeting people who had lots of problems with Amazon, like being suspended or having their ASINs taken down. So it was a perfect mix for me with the management consulting background, figuring out how to solve the problems on Amazon. It is its own little ecosystem of torture.
We'll call the episode that, the ecosystem of torture. That's good. Nice. Well, it sounds like you have some great consulting background, great experience on the marketing side and the consulting side. So that's great to hear. And I know you've been doing this for a while now and you've helped a lot of people. What goes wrong? Again, I kind of mentioned to you, yeah, at Caravan Digital, we're helping clients, market directly to their, Shopify or WooCommerce websites. You're over in the Amazon world. You kind of have to play by the giants' rules over there. What happens? What kind of rules do people run afoul of? What happens that causes people to get their accounts banned?
Well, a couple of challenges right off the bat. Number one is that Amazon does create the biggest opportunity out there in e-commerce right now. So there are a lot of people who Amazon is their only channel or it is the dominant channel. So that makes it incredibly important that it's up and running. So if it goes down, the world is collapsing around these companies and these brands. It's really rough. And then the second thing is, it is not like selling everywhere else. Amazon has a massive risk management structure in place. They have to. They have to because they have to make sure there's no money laundering on the platform, that their buyers aren't getting ripped off, that Amazon's reputation isn't being hurt. So they have thousands of people who investigate accounts all the time. So you can get taken down for product quality reasons. That's where buyers are saying they're not getting what you promised. So it looks like it's used. It doesn't match the listing detail page. It's counterfeit, God forbid someone says that. It's expired. Then there are the more account, like how you're running your account problems. Like, do you have late shipment if you're actually the shipper of record? Your order defect rate. Do you have problems with not entering your tracking rate, tracking numbers, or entering fake tracking numbers? People do it. And then there's this third category of the big ugly suspensions like platform manipulation, where you're asking people for reviews or paying for reviews. There's this whole thing around Section 3 at Amazon, which is code of conduct, where you're hurting buyers or you're hurting other sellers. There are a lot of people out there who play games on the platform. And, I would say of the thousands of clients that we've helped get reinstated, a third of them didn't do it. A third of them did it, but they didn't mean to because they didn't have good processes in place. They made mistakes. They accidentally bought something that was counterfeit. It happens. And then a third of them, oh, they did it and they meant to. And we have to tell them, you can't do that anymore. So there's this wide range of behavior, and there are more than 20 things that are suspension types at Amazon.
Wow, that's fascinating. So what I'm hearing is Amazon's the big ship in the ocean. Everyone else is kind of like a small boat getting bounced around. And Amazon has rules to protect their customers. They're the customer. Your clients are the vendors basically. And so sometimes in trying to protect clients from shyster accounts out there basically, or products or what have you, some of the in some cases the good guys are getting hurt. Is that a fair way to say it?
Absolutely. There is over enforcement sometimes. Amazon is going to err on the side of the buyer to protect the buyer. There are also buyers who make complaints that are not valid complaints. They want free return shipping when they wouldn't otherwise qualify it or for it, or they're trying to get free stuff out of Amazon. It happens, and there's dirty tricks out there from competitors too, where there's black hat tactics. It is a complicated world, but I think the number one problem for most brands, if they're newer to Amazon, they don't realize that there is this Amazon specific set of rules and metrics that you have to pay attention to. You can't just say, "Oh, it's another channel." And I'm just gonna ship station out my orders just like I do for my Etsy orders and my eBay orders and my wherever orders, right? It takes really dedicated attention to make sure that you are doing what you're supposed to do.
Yeah, you mentioned that opportunity there. We got started with SEO. We're doing Google Ads and Google Shopping and things like that. And the thought is you're capturing existing demand. But I know that, if someone's searching Amazon, they're searching for products, right? Like, there's commercial intent versus on Google, there's a lot of informational intent. So that's why it makes sense to play here. But it sounds like if you're going to focus on this, you need to focus on it. Don't just think about it. Hey, we're going to try Pinterest. We're going to try Amazon. We're going to try these things. You really need to have someone on this.
Well, and there's some crazy number now of Prime members. It's like 160 million Prime members in the United States. That's half the population. That is insane. And so when you have access to this massive number of people that most of them, their first option is going to Amazon to search for a product. I mean, my goodness, captive audience, even though it's not for you, the seller, a captive audience, they're still searching and you have that opportunity. So, in return for that, absolutely, you've got to have a channel manager on Amazon who understands Seller Central, understands the rules. Even if you're just selling one hero ASIN, you've got to make absolutely sure you know what you're supposed to know so you don't get kicked off.
Yeah, that makes sense. I recently saw an Onion article. I think it was to the effect of package that arrives overnight, sits on table unopened for 1 week or something like that. It's like we're all Prime members, and sometimes that's faster than we even expected. So that makes sense. So let's maybe go through each of those three you mentioned of reasons that people get kicked off. So let's say it's the first one, to no fault of their own, and it looks like it was an error. What should a brand do if their account is suspended in that case?
So most of the time, okay, I hate to tell everyone this. This is like the dirty secret. You have to find a way to admit fault even if you didn't do it. So unless we're talking about something like breaking the law, like counterfeit, you never want to admit that unless you've got a really darn good reason to do it. Or unless it's something like platform manipulation where you really didn't do it and Amazon's algorithms do mess up. Um, you have to find something to admit. So let's say you've got a bunch of buyer complaints and it looks like they're from one buyer and they bought your product 4 times and complained 4 times and your product gets kicked off Amazon. And so you want to say, hey, this really annoying dude bought my stuff 4 times and complained and there's nothing wrong with my product. Well, that's really nice and everything, but Amazon wants you to fall on the sword. So you've got to find something to say, oh, you know what? My packaging could have been better. Oh, you know what, this or that could have been better. I could have made it a better experience. And then you really have to do some investigation and make sure you're buttoned up as much as possible. There are things you can do, even for customers you think are insane because they're too demanding. There may be a little pinch of knowledge or wisdom in their complaints that you can find.
Hmm. That's pretty interesting. And it seems like, again, Amazon's the big player. They're just looking for, hey, vendors, what can you do to better serve our customers? And so they're looking for that. That's a pretty interesting tactic. Is this something then where people are kind of messaging through the platform and saying you've got to type up and say what happened? I imagine Amazon's dealing with just thousands and thousands of these. So what does that process look like?
When you get suspended, whether it's an ASIN, meaning just one product gets taken down, because ASIN is Amazon's shorthand for like a UPC, it's their individual product identifier. So whether it's one ASIN that's taken down or your whole account, they will send you an email message and there will be a notification in Seller Central, which is where you manage your Amazon account, telling you, hey, you're suspended, or hey, your ASIN was taken down. click here to appeal. And then they tell you what they want from you. And most of the plans of action require three things. You have to say what was the root cause, what you did to fix this particular problem, apologies, groveling, sending out the orders that didn't get sent. And then part number three is the meat and potatoes. It's the how I'm going to make sure these mistakes never happen again. And Amazon is looking for those SMART goals, the specific and time bound and all that good stuff, because Amazon internally, they're about SMART goals. So I have 15 ex-Amazonians on my team. And they have told me many times, you don't say that they're SMART goals in your plan of action, but because that is a value inside Amazon, you better be sure that they can actually find them in there with the time bound and the specific. Yeah.
That's amazing. So you've got a really good sized team then, and you're pulling from people who've been on the inside, huh?
Absolutely. We have 75 people working at Riverbend and a very large team of people who does nothing but write appeals all day long. So when we write an appeal with a client, we give it to them and they submit it through the portal. So it goes, because you're asking, how do you do this thing? You submit it through Seller Central. It goes to a seller performance investigator. Okay, so hold on to your hat. You're going to love this stat. They have 5 minutes to review your case and read your appeal, because that's totally adequate if you're $1 billion revenue Amazon seller that got suspended, which we have worked on that before. So they have 5 minutes to read your appeal and decide whether to approve it or to ask you for more information or to block your account.
Wow. So it's almost like when you're applying for a job when you're younger, it's like get that resume. The resume is just to get you a job interview. That's all we want.
Right? It's rough. And here's another interesting thing to know. There are a lot of appeals that people send in. They're decent appeals, but because of the severity of the accusations, the seller performance investigator does not feel empowered to reinstate the account. A lot of times it's because of Amazon's artificial intelligence. So the artificial intelligence will tell the investigator, we are absolutely sure that this is a restricted product. Do not reinstate. And, it's something like a child's blanket with stars on it or a statue of an owl. We've had both of those things taken down as pesticides. Because a statue of an owl is clearly a pesticide, and so the investigator doesn't want to overturn that because the artificial intelligence told them that you can't overturn this. So we have to go to executives. We write executive escalations that go to executive groups and individual executives to solve a tremendous percentage of these issues.
Wow. So it's not just other people are flagging your clients. It's also just like they're getting caught in AI bureaucracy, basically. This.
There's so much of it. Especially around restricted products. Things like you get accused of being a pesticide or an adult product. We've had things that are children's products flagged as adult products that are only supposed to be on the see me side of Amazon, and you get flagged. There are all kinds of things their AI will pick up, and so it gets crazy because we're escalating to director level and VP level about an owl statue, which is nuts. But Amazon does have an escalation culture. They've run lean for a long time. They believe in being very lean. They're very siloed. And so they love getting escalations because they actually rely on outside sellers, vendors, partners, buyers to tell them where they're screwing up so they can solve the problems. So escalations are welcomed at Amazon, which is a good thing because our clients send in hundreds.
Wow. It's like you're almost part of that ecosystem of, hey, Lesley will let us know if there's an issue.
I wish I had a direct line into people at Amazon that we could just have a chat generally, not about any client, but golly gee, here's some themes I see across all of these clients.
All right. Well, maybe some will hear us on here. This is great. I wanted to just circle back, Leslie. If people were in categories 2 or 3, where they accidentally ran afoul of the rules or they deliberately ran afoul of the rules, is the process different then for those appeals?
No, and here's the exciting news for everyone out there who thinks, but what if I just make a mistake? Amazon does believe in second chances for all but the very worst offenders. There are some cases, like with counterfeit, obviously with money laundering, circumventing the rules, where you're not going to get a second chance. But almost everything else, they really do believe in second chances. If you're going to clean up your act, you're going to solve the problem, you're probably going to get back on if you give them a great plan and actually follow through on it.
Wow. I think this conversation it's really sinking in for me, like how reliant we are on big tech, like how we need to figure out how to work with these companies, and you're navigating that. So I'm glad you're here.
Thank you, me too. It's like, what's fun about our business is it is just problem solving all day long. It's challenging, but there's always something new that we have to figure out and figure out how to fix it.
Getting products suspended, getting accounts suspended. What don't I know that I should be asking you here?
So for brands that do not have an established presence on Amazon, I think the most important discussion that they should have before they jump in with both feet is to really make an informed decision on whether they should be a third-party seller or a vendor in Amazon's 1P program. And there are people who will tell you, you should only be a vendor. It's so much easier. You just sell to Amazon, the goods go away. Because it's like if you were selling to Target or Walmart, you ship to their DC, everything's cool. That's it. You're done. Or you can drop ship for them. And then on the other side, there are people who say you should only sell 3P because it makes no sense to ever be part of the 1P program. And I tend to fall in that camp for a lot of reasons. But I think every company really needs to have a deep understanding of how they would be impacted by Amazon's actions in the future, no matter which one they choose, instead of just picking one because someone told them to, which happens a lot.
Pretty interesting. Can you give us a brief definition of each for anyone who's not familiar? And then how do you think about the pros and cons?
Sure. So if you're in the vendor program, you sell directly to Amazon. Either you can drop ship on their behalf, or in most cases, you're just shipping all of your stuff to an Amazon fulfillment center and they are paying you. You're not doing the customer service. You no longer own the product. You're not the seller of record. If and that's a lot like a wholesale relationship. Like Amazon is buying from you as the wholesaler. If you're a third party seller, you are the seller of record. You own those goods. You either can ship them yourself or you can ship them to Amazon, where Amazon fulfills the orders through their FBA program. But either way, you're the seller of record. You're responsible for the products and you get to set the pricing. So the reason I fall on the let's be a third party seller side, even though it is more work, I mean, it is straight up, it is more work for the seller, but generally speaking, your margins are going to be so much better because as the seller, it even says in Amazon's business solutions agreement, which is their terms of service, that the third party seller is responsible for setting their own pricing. You are in control of pricing, you're in control of where your product goes and the selection, all that good stuff. If you are a vendor on the 1P side, Amazon sets the prices. They are forever trying to crush your margins. They're resisting price increases right now, which tells you a lot when they should be approving price increases wholesale. Instead, they are resisting them like crazy. And the worst part is Amazon controls your selection. So they might say they're going to buy a certain set of your products and then they don't promote most of them, or they don't have good pricing parity on some of them, and those don't move, and they never move, and so Amazon never orders them again. If you had had control over those certain pieces of your product line over on the 3P side, you would have advertised, you would have run promotions, you would have beautiful product detail pages with great content, and you would have probably moved some of that stuff. So you're just losing all the control and really at Amazon's mercy if you're a vendor.
Wow. It's in business we try to make things win-win, for the for the brand and for the customer. It sounds like in this case it's difficult to get aligned in terms of the incentives, but it sounds like you've laid it out nicely. Of it really is, and just to make sure I've got it right, of 3PL in this respect can be better. Is that correct?
Being a third party seller, you're going to have more control over your margins and what you're offering on the platform over time. Yes. You're going to make more money. That's just all there is to it.
Hey, that's what we're all about here. Um, Lesley, Tell us a little bit about it. Who's a good fit to reach out to you guys, and how can they find you?
Absolutely. So, anyone who is a third party seller or a vendor who is having problems with Amazon, love to talk to you, whether it's a suspension or even a smaller issue you're struggling with, like trying to get that price increase, for example, for vendors, or if you're not getting reimbursed for lost inventory. There are so many little details. We are here to talk to you. You can reach us by going to our website at riverbendconsulting.com. We've got a phone number there, and the magic is we answer our phones 5 days a week and actually talk to you about your problems and see if we can help. And then also, if you head on over to LinkedIn and search for me, Lesley Hensell, I have hot, fresh, new Amazon content usually 5 days a week and would love to share information and connect over there.
That's awesome. Thank you so much for coming on, Lesley. Normally, I thank people for sharing what's working in e-commerce. I think today I'll thank you for sharing what's not working and what to do about it when it's not working.
Either way, it's good information.
Right on. Thanks so much.
Thank you.